What's up, YouTube? Today we're looking at the Open Great League once again, and the team we're taking a look at today is Toedscruel, Shadow Drapion, and Carbink. Now the main focus of today's video is going to be Toedscruel because I think Toedscruel is a super underrated Pokemon in the Open Great League. It's a grass type Pokemon that beats some of the fire types. It core breaks the other mud slappers. And overall, it has a good matchup into like steels and poisons because it's a mud slapper itself. So I thought it was a very interesting core breaker. That said, of course, CRADILY exists. They have very different matchups, but both have very positive matchups in the Open Great League. And for two grass type Pokemon, that's pretty nice, but they really lean into their secondary typing. So we're going to kind of dive into that today. These battles were done a bit earlier in the season, so these battles are a little bit like lower in elo. That said, I still think they are pretty valuable, which is why I'm showcasing them today. So without further ado, let's hop into the battles. Alright, hopping into the first match, we've got a Toedscruel into Empoleon. So this is actually not a bad matchup. The opponent is going to safe switch into a Florges. So now in comes the Shadow Drapion. Now Shadow Drapion, of course, has super effective Poison Stings in this matchup. However, the opponent can now go for neutral Chilling Waters to lower my attack. And I can only go for Aqua Tail here. Aqua Tail is non-stab. It's not a great move, especially once it's been debuffed. And now I'm threatened to get knocked out by a Chilling Water. So I am going to put up a shield. And now Drapion is 2 times lowered. I'm not even confident that an Aqua Tail will KO, so I overfarm as much as possible, going for the Aqua Tail right before they make it to another Chilling Water, but the opponent does end up letting that go. Back comes the Empoleon, but Empoleon is going to be able to absorb this crunch no problem, as I am 2 times debuffed, and now they're going to get a full farm down and come out with energy to threaten my Toedscruel. Unfortunately, I just have to commit to it. They have a Charm Alolan Ninetales in the back, and now in comes Carbink. Carbink is just going to look for a full farm down here, not going to commit any shields because I really don't want them to get even more energy on their Empoleon, because that will just threaten an easy knockout when they make it to back-to-back Drill Pecks. So now I'm just going to let this go. Psyshock, they undercharge it, looking for that extra farm down with the Empoleon, but now that means I can undertap the move. Moonblast does pretty big damage, and now I'm looking to pivot as soon as possible. In comes the Toedscruel. I'm hoping that I can live one charge move from this range. It is only single super effective. The opponent ends up going for a Hydro Cannon there. They make it to another charge move here. This is surely going to be the Drill Peck. No, it's just going to be the Hydro Cannon. I think we would have lived the Drill Peck anyways, but it would have been close. We do end up getting that farm down, and we are able to take that win. Fantastic lead in the next match. The opponent has triple resisted Thunder Shocks. They end up safe switching into a Lickitung, so I'm just going to chip with a Seed Bomb before pivoting into my Drapion, as Drapion resists the licks from the opponent, and they were 1 turn behind, which means I was able to get to that Seed Bomb 1 turn before they got to their Body Slam. They are going to start spamming out these Body Slams, but it looks like it's going to take 2 of those in order to knock out, and because their licks are resisted, I can actually overfarm in this matchup and look to connect with a Crunch. However, Crunch is not enough to knock out. They are going to make it to another Body Slam, but I should be able to survive this on low HP, so I am going to let this go. And unfortunately, we did get that Poison, or the Crunch debuff, which means we do get the Poison Sting farm down. We leave with an Aqua Tail loaded for that Dedenne, which means Dedenne will have to take some neutral damage here, but we are going to go down. Back in comes the Toedscruel. It's a Abomasnow in the back, but this is a Leafage Abomasnow, so we're actually both doing super effective damage to one another. However, I am going to commit a shield here, hoping that I do get the call on the Energy Ball correct. They end up going for the Weather Ball bait. Now that is bad, but all I have to do in this matchup is double shield, because I am not worried about a charge move from the Dedenne on my Toedscruel. Even if they make it to a play rough, they're going to have to basically commit 2 shields here, and you know what, if they commit a shield here, that's exactly what I want. I'm just looking to burn the switch timer, and as soon as that switch timer is back up, in comes Toedscruel. Toedscruel able to make it to a Seed Bomb as well, so here comes the second shield from the opponent. They can look to connect with a Play Rough here, but Play Rough will not be enough to knock out the Toedscruel. They don't even throw on good timing here, sacrificing an entire Thunder Shock, and that's going to matter because now, I mean, they're not going to get to another charge move either way, so they are going to get fully farmed down. The opponent resigns the match, and we are able to take that win. A third good lead in the row. So many Pokemon weak to ground on the lead in these games. The opponent safe switches into an Abomasnow, but this is a Powder Snow Abomasnow this time. If it was a Leafage Abomasnow, you could argue that Drapion is the better answer here. They are going to go for that Energy Ball. It does big damage to the Carbink, but it's not enough to knock out, so now I'm going to go for the Rock Slide right before they make it to Energy Ball number 2. Is the opponent willing to commit a shield here? Yes, they are. And you know what? Do I really need switch? Let's find out. I am going to fight for switch. I don't think they can make it to a third energy ball if they don't bait, and they end up not baiting there. They end up coming back with a stun fist. What all that does is switch lock them in a matchup where they're completely walled. Mud Bomb is single resisted, Discharge is triple resisted, so the opponent is forced to go for their single resisted charge move in this matchup, and I can look to overfarm massively. You might have noticed that I am running Seed Bomb and Earth Power in these matchups, and that is simply because I was out of charge TMs at the moment when I was recording these battles. That said, Earth Power does give you some surprise nuke coverage that a lot of opponents might not expect. I end up safe switching into the Drapion, only to be met by the Bullet Seed CRADILY in the back. But you know what? That's okay, because Bullet Seed CRADILY loves to shield the first. I go for the Aqua Tail bait. The opponent does put up that shield. I know I can live one Rock Tomb here, and I'm not threatened by getting farmed down by their fast move, so I will look to overfarm. They end up going for a pretty nice catch onto the Abomasnow, so I have fully undercharged this. I believe Crunch will still be enough to knock out the Abomasnow, and even though they made a really nice catch, they actually let me get to a second Crunch here, and Crunch from this range, even though my attack is 1 times lowered, puts them deep into the yellow health range. The opponent is overfarming like massive. They're trying to make it to back-to-back charge moves to come out of this matchup, but it's too little too late. Here comes an Aqua Tail. Now they're in the red, and then I end up going for a catch onto my Carbink, knowing they would have to throw a Rock Tomb to pick up the knockout on the Drapion. We end up getting the full Rock Throw farm down, and we are able to take that win. Into the next match, on Abomasnow on the lead. So first negative matchup, I'm going to safe switch into the Drapion, and the opponent is going to respond with an Azumarill. Now Azumarill is taking super effective damage from my poison stings. However, I am completely walled in this matchup as both Crunch and Aqua Tail are resisted. However, if I get Crunch debuffs, this is a matchup that Drapion can flip. So I'm fishing for these Crunch debuffs. I'm hoping that if I keep throwing them, I'll eventually get them. Unfortunately, none of them come through, but because they gave me such an energy lead, I'm still going to look for that switch of the flip. I'm now going to go for a Crunch on the CMP tie. I wasn't completely positive that an Aqua Tail would be enough to knock out. Crunch is going to get B shield from my opponent, but all that does is set up a perfect Poison Sting farm down for the Shadow Drapion, and if they stay in and get fully farmed down, I'm going to leave with a Crunch loaded, and this Crunch is going to do big damage to that Abomasnow unless they show me their third. What is their final Pokemon? It's a Feraligatr. I'm going to go for the Crunch right before they make it to a Hydro Cannon, and Crunch from this range is going to put the opponent deep into the yellow health range. We get that Crunch debuff as well. They will look to connect with a Hydro Cannon on the CMP tie. Hydro Cannon does pick up the knockout, but now in comes Toedscruel in the back. Is the Abomasnow, as we've seen, actually on the lead, but now in comes Carbink. Carbink can absorb 1 energy ball here from the Shadow Abomasnow, but it does do big damage. They will need a second in order to knock out, and these fast moves are really adding up. I'm able to grab the final shield from my opponent or pick up the knockout here with a Rock Slide. Rock Slide does grab that final shield. The opponent is overfarming as much as possible, hoping that double Weather Ball will be enough to knock out, but Carbink is too bulky. We hang on. We get a simultaneous KO with the Rock Slide. With the Rock Throw. They can't get to the Ice Beam before we get to the Seed Bomb, so they will resign the match, and we are able to take that win. Another good lead in the next match, Mud Slapper versus Mud Slapper, but the opponent is completely walled. They safe switch into a Moltres, and Trainer, you cannot safe switch a Moltres when I am running a Toedscruel, so they get hard punched by the Carbink. That is a 5-0 set, and now into the next match, picking up another good lead. We've got Toedscruel into the Empoleon. The opponent safe switches into a Diggersby, and I don't have a fantastic response to Diggersby in the back. I'm kind of forced to stay in this matchup because both of my back 2 Pokemon are weak to ground. However, once they let that Seed Bomb go, I'm going to come in with a Shadow Drapion. You might be wondering, that's a pretty silly move because a Diggersby Scorching Sands will basically knock out the Drapion. However, because of the pacing advantage and because I connected with that Seed Bomb, I'm now going to make it to back-to-back Aqua Tails, and Aqua Tail from this range will be enough to knock out. They do, however, CMP tie me, but if they full send once again, or even if they don't, I believe I will be able to outpace, and the opponent is going to full send the Scorching Sands. I'm now going to farm up to over back-to-back charge moves, go for Aqua Tail number 1. Aqua Tail number 1 grabs the final shield from the opponent. They don't even go for their catch. They just stay in. They lose CMP. Aqua Tail number 2 from this range picks up the knockout on the Diggersby, and now back in comes the Empoleon. But Empoleon, because I overfarmed, is going to be outpaced as well, and Crunch is going to do big neutral damage. They have no shields left in play. That puts them deep into the yellow. I'm going to make it to yet another Crunch. The opponent makes a really nice catch onto an Altaria on the back, but unfortunately for the Altaria, Meteor Maker, a complete wall to energy from the Altaria. Dragon Breath is double resisted. Sky Attack and Flamethrower are both single resisted, which means I can just look for a full Rock Throw farm down. They will be able to throw some charge moves here, but it does not matter. Carbink is going to eat this for breakfast. We leave with a Moonblast loaded, which is resisted damage, but it's going to do massive damage to the Empoleon, as Empoleon is very glassy. Moonblast connects, it knocks out the Empoleon, and we are able to take that win. Into the next match, we got Toadscruel into Diggersby. This is a more neutral matchup, as both of our fast moves are neutral, and we both have super effective charge moves. The opponent does have a pacing advantage in this matchup. However, my charge move is stab, whereas the opponent's is non-stab, and ours will do a little bit more damage. It looks like 2 fire punches plus the quick attacks might be enough to knock out, but it comes down to a race here, and unfortunately, Toadscruel is going to lose that race. They are going to make it to a second fire punch before I make it to a second seed bomb. I am going to put up the shield and then look to connect with a seed bomb of my own, overfarming as much as possible. Seed bomb from this range should be enough to knock out the Diggersby unless they commit a shield. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait the turn and then go for the catch on a Drapion, and by getting that catch, I also sneak a Poison Sting, which is huge, because now when they come in with a Dedenne in the back, I will be able to outpace the opponent, make it to an Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail will be some pretty solid neutral trip. The opponent is definitely just going to let that go. Unfamiliar with the fact that I snuck a Poison Sting there, they end up overfarming too much, allowing me to get to a second Aqua Tail, and then there is the shield, and we have a hard punish to the Dedenne on the lead. So I'm just going to let the Parabolic Charge go, look for a full farm down with the Toadscruel. If this is enough for a play rough, it's going to knock out. I'm going to let it go. It is enough for the play rough. They're not going to make it to another charge move. I'm trusting in the Carbink, and it's a Togekiss in the back, which means we are able to take that win. Terrible lead in the next match, but 2 better answers in the back. So I'm going to save switch into the Shadow Drapion. Shadow Drapion will make it to an Aqua Tail as they make it to the Air Cutter, but I end up overfarming, expecting the catch. The opponent ends up getting the catch once I overfarm, but they end up coming in with an Empoleon. Empoleon did sneak a Metal Sound through, which means they do get the Hydro Cannon on the CMP tie, which means I am forced to just let this go. And unfortunately, not having Wrap in this matchup is bad because I don't have any neutral coverage into the Dragonite. In fact, why did I say the Dragonite there? I meant the Charizard, but I meant all of my charge moves are like double resisted. So I'm forced to come in here. Earth Power is single resisted, I guess, but it's not a good matchup for the Toadscruel either way, as all my charge moves are resisted. In the back is a Shadow Dusknoir, and I have my Carbink. Carbink is going to have to make an absolute miracle here, so I'm going to have to be double shielding in this matchup, and then looking for a catch out of this matchup. I am going to, here comes up my second shield, and here comes a second Shadow Punch from the opponent. Can I get to another charge move? No, I cannot, so I go for a CMP Sack Swap onto my Toadscruel, which means the opponent cannot undercharge, because if they undercharge, guess who's getting to a Seed Bomb? The opponent wanted to get more energy by going for the undercharge, but that allows me to grab the final shield. They snipe with the Charizard, but that does not matter because Carbink is going to resist every single thing that the Charizard can throw. Blast Burn does normally huge damage, but it's not enough here. They did not get the full farm down with the Dusknoir, which means they do not have a charge move loaded. We make it to the Moonblast, and Moonblast from this range picks up the knockout on the Dusknoir, and we are able to take that win. CMP Sack Swap, gotta love it. But into the next match, Toadscruel into Clodsire. The opponent is going to pivot into a Greninja, and I decided to come in with Carbink. Now, the reason I came in with Carbink is because I don't have a good answer in the back. The opponent would outpace me to a Hydro Cannon and get their turn back against the Toadscruel, whereas Carbink at least has some good fast move pressure here. I do put up a shield on the first, expecting them to not bait a Hydro Cannon. They are going to go for a Hydro Cannon on number 2, but guess what? Because now I can go for a Rock Slide and grab that shield right back, and if they commit the shield, I can actually just either, or actually they're not even going to commit the shield, they're just going to come back in with the Clodsire, get an energy lead, and you know what, that's okay. I'm only going to make it to one charge move here, so I am just going to go for the Moonblast. I'm not going for it until I let myself get extremely low in case I do get that attack drop, because I do not want to give my opponent extra farm. We do not get that attack drop, but in comes Toadscruel. Even if they have Sludge Bomb here, it's only neutral damage, and in the back is a Meowscarada. So this is a team that was popularized, I believe, by Yonkis earlier in the season, or at least he showcased it on his channel. That said, Frenzy Plant and Night Slash are both resisted. I'm going to go for an Aqua Tail bait against the Meowscarada because Meowscarada is absurdly glassy, but they end up letting that go. but I believe that puts them into a range where I can actually Mud Slap farm them down, so I am going to let this go. Night Slash does pick up the knockout. In comes Toad Scroll. Toad Scroll does get that Mud Slap farm down, and now back in comes Clodsire. I'm going to have to let one charge move go, so I'm going to let the first go. Do they run Sludge Bomb? No, they go for an Earthquake, which means my opponent is on Stone Edge Earthquake. Both of their charge moves are resisted, which means this is a fantastic matchup for the Toad Scroll. I know I can survive a second charge move here, so I do end up letting that go. I'm just going to start spamming out these Seed Bombs, because I do have a lot of energy here. The opponent is going to put up a shield. I'm able to make it to Seed Bomb number 2. I actually had enough for the Earth Power as well, but that Mud Slap should put them in a range where a Seed Bomb knocks out. The opponent does put up the second shield, but I'm already at a third Seed Bomb before the opponent can get that full farm down, and Seed Bomb picks up the knockout on the Clodsire, and we are able to take that win. Into the next match, we've got Toad Scroll into Corsola. So this is an okay matchup in the sense that we do outpace the opponent. Seed Bomb, of course, is not a great charge move. So what I'm going to look to do here is actually full send an Earth Power. Now, I'm not sure that this is actually the correct play here, but I am going to full send it, as I do have 2 solid answers to the Corsola in the back. So full send the Earth Power. Not going to look to pivot just yet. Can I get to another charge move? No, I cannot. So I'm going to catch the Nightshade onto my Drapion before they get to that second Nightshade. Nightshade connects, but in the back is an Azumarill. So we've seen this core of Corsola plus Azumarill before. I guess that means it's not a Scizor in the back. Oftentimes these two are paired with a Scizor. In the past, they actually were paired with a Shadow Drapion of their own, but we're gonna have to see what my opponent is running for their final Pokemon. That said, this is a matchup, like I said, that you can flip if you commit the shields, and we do have 2 shields in play here. And I'm going to be committing the shields on the Drapion because it doesn't really make sense to commit shields on the Carbink or the Toad Scroll, as both of them are absurdly bulky. I am able to go for another crunch that ends up getting the defense fall, and I throw on the CMP tie, which means I am just going to let this go. Ice Beam does pick up the knockout on the Drapion here, but now I can look for a full farm down with the Carbink. Carbink is going to, no, I'm going to go for the Toad Scroll instead. Can I get the full farm down? Yes, I can. I leave on 1 HP. I have the charge move loaded. It's a Fortress in the back, so not the Scizor, but another Bug Steel instead. This opponent could be running that Earthquake here. Am I going to call the bait? No, I am going to put up the shield, and they do end up full sending the Earthquake, so that is a huge shield call. And now I am able to make it to a Rock Slide. This is neutral damage. Does the opponent put up the shield? Yes, they do. They're probably going to look to connect with another Earthquake before I'm able to make another charge move, but Carbink should be able to hold on. This is non-stab damage, and Earthquake actually only does about like 50%. I end up sniping with the Toad Scroll in the middle of their Volt Switch, and Volt Switch is triple resisted. Earth Power picks up the knockout, and with that snipe, this game is over as I have the Rock Slide loaded. The opponent does not have the energy for a charge move, so they will resign the match, and we are able to take that win. So CMP stack swaps, snipes, we have made a lot of good plays with this Toad Scroll, of course, but I do think Toad Scroll is a very fun Pokemon, and I think it's a great core breaker, especially if you're seeing Mud Slapper plus Steals a lot, or there is a core between Mud Slap and just water in general that Toad Scroll really does core break, and I think has really nice play in this meta. Carbink is definitely feast or famine. You saw I had a lot of matchups where I had the alignment that I wanted, and I think Drapion is really good at forcing that alignment or grabbing shields so that you can set up either Toad Scroll or Carbink to finish off the end game. And there were a lot of close matchups here, but I do think the core of Toad Scroll plus Carbink is very strong, especially with that Drapion safe swap. That said, I do want to say thank you to the expert trainer members on this channel: Benny Hemlock, Dark Green Mustache, Eliana, Perry G, Blue Nation, Peter Rushworth, Chompus Clips, Sons of Code, and so on Batil, as well as an extra special thank you to the Legend trainer members on this channel: Andrew Pitten, Musachu, Speedster, Estros, Fast Lady Boss, CD Slaskus, and Star Bonsai. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace!